Everybody, happy that you're with us today. This is our 26th episode. We've just been doing the podcast now for just a little bit over a year. So we're very pleased that you've hung in there with us and joined us again today. We have a great group with us, which I'll introduce in just a minute. Before that, I want to get into a couple of hot topics. Today we celebrate American Women Business Day. This day marks the 1949 founding of the date of the American Business Women's Association 72 years ago. This organization and the special day commemorates the important contributions of more than 68 million American women working. And if you're asking ways you can support this event and day, you can do it through your support of women's businesses, shopping, buying, and working with them. My wife has a very successful business of 41 years, and we appreciate the support she's gotten. Also, join a women's group and support it that way. And you can always mentor other women. You have things that you can offer and give that you've learned, so very important to continue to support the American Women's Business Day. Regional theme park operators. We all know that COVID has put regional theme parks in precarious financial positions, but at the same time, we're seeing that improvements are being made during the pandemic that could lead to more profitable industry as we move forward. These parks had to, that have been affected, basically all of us have had to find operating efficiencies. They updated their attractions. They reevaluated staffing needs. They took a hard look at their bottom line. And the hope is that when we come out of this, we'll come out of it stronger in 2021. And indications already seem to be very positive for those parks that have operated this season and activated those efficiencies. So overall, if you look at some of the public companies, stock performance of the theme park operators for from March 20th through early September are very positive at this point in time. International travel, visitors may soon be allowed to return to Orlando theme parks as well as the rest of the United States. These pandemic travel bans have kept visitors from the UK, Europe, Brazil, and other international destinations from visiting the U.S. for more than a year now. But just this week, it was announced that international visitors will be allowed to enter the U.S. if they can show proof of vaccination before boarding their flights, as well as a negative COVID test that's taken 72 hours before they get on their plane. Big news this last week is the opening of Universal Studios, the biggest, one of the biggest parks that has opened in the last decade. Groundbreaking on this park began 5 years ago in 2016. In September, they did a soft opening, and we hear and have seen this week that the park has really been a huge hit with the Chinese consumers. The tickets for Monday's opening were sold out in actually 2 minutes after they went online. Quickly, this was quickly followed by tickets for the week-long National Day holiday event coming up on October 1st with that demand so strong that it actually crashed their site and they sold out. Around a third of the park's attractions at this $6.6 billion park have been themed to the Chinese culture. So that's going to be very interesting to see. And I think the opening speaks volumes about China and how it's progressed as a global leader in the markets that house these theme parks. It's reported that China currently has over 150 theme parks, up from about 128 2 years ago, and more parks are being planned. In fact, we read that 80 parks are proposed to come online by 2025. One additional issue of concern that still plagues the industry is guest unruliness. There were 2 more guest fight breakouts at parks this past weekend, separate parks. And it's been a problematic issue that has plagued both the small and large parks this summer. It's similar to what we've seen on airlines. So in talking to colleagues around the industry, everybody is increasing their security and taking steps to stop this immediately. And that's something we have to do. That's not proper for our business. So with that, I want to go to our guest today with some introductions. We have with us three highly talented ladies who work for three of our leading suppliers in the industry. These ladies oversee marketing and sales efforts. They oversee new business development and trade show and event planning, and they really bring a wealth of experience and insight to us today on these important topics that we're going to be discussing. Let me briefly introduce them in alphabetical order. First is Chloe Hausfeld, Director of Marketing and Business Development for JRA Design Group, based here in beautiful Cincinnati. Chloe's their chief strategist for marketing and sales and oversees relationship management for current and future clients. She also helps coordinate trade show logistics and employee enrichment activities. She was the 2017 recipient of the IAPA Young Professional of the Year Award. She's also served on various committees at IAPA and is currently on the board of directors. She serves on the Executive Finance Committee, the Give Kids the World Committee, the Service Awards Committee, the Space Allocation Committee, and this is her second term on the Global Manufacturer and Suppliers Committee. So Chloe is very active. I'm not sure when you get time to market JRA, but thank you for doing all that. And here in the state of Ohio, she's very involved with lobbying in Ohio as a representative, which all the aces that face us in the industry. Next is Sara Seay, Vice President of Administration and Sales and Marketing for Premier Rides, one of our major ride and attraction suppliers with offices in Baltimore, Maryland, and in St. Petersburg, Florida. As a teenager, Sara began her career at the wonderful and beautiful Lagoon Park in Utah, where she honed her skills and she gained operations knowledge and then grew through the ranks to lead their guest relations program and become a female park director. Congratulations on that, Sara. Those were the early days. And for a number of years, Sara was a charity event planner where she planned and organized major events that benefited major companies and worthwhile causes in the market. Since joining Premier, she now leads their marketing, graphic design, business development, and their sales teams. Sara was recently honored with the New England Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions Paragon Award for Excellence in Marketing, and was also featured recently in Amusement Today and Fun World as a woman influencer of our industry. She's a member of IAPA, TEA, ASTM, F24, and AIMS, and she too is an amazing participant for our industry. And last but certainly not least is Katrina Verweel, Trade Show and Events Manager for WhiteWater, based in Vancouver, where she specializes, they specialize, of course, in water parks and water park equipment. Katrina, welcome. She began her career in event planning, executing large charity events, and she found herself planning conferences and seminars before really accepting the position in WhiteWater, where she not only works in marketing, but she manages all of the company's trade shows and events around the world, which is a huge, huge job. In this role, she plans over 35 events around the world every year, including all client parties and important social gatherings and enormous shows like IAPA Orlando. Katrina understands the importance of planning shows and events that will strengthen the relationships that WhiteWater maintains with its clients around the world. She also was involved in the local meetings and events industry on the Meeting Planners International Board of Directors of Events. So ladies, welcome to I'm4FUN. I'm so happy to have all three of you here today and that you agreed to join us. So let's jump right in with it. We've got a lot to talk about. We're already starting to get a few questions in. So that'll, Sarah, I saw you roll your eyes now. We'll keep them honest and fair. We have gone through a lot in the last year, and we keep talking about it. I would ask, and I'll start with you on this, Chloe. How have sales and marketing efforts in your company in JRA? How have they adjusted during the pandemic, and what strategies remain in place, or do they continue to evolve? So, what have you had to do that's different, and you thought, oh my God, we'll never we would have never planned this for any other reason but something like this.
Great. Thanks, Dennis, and thanks for having us this morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. Marketing always continues to evolve, but there's definitely a different strategy during the height of the pandemic for JRA. While we wanted to stay top of mind for our industry colleagues, current clients, as well as our potential clients, we did do a lot of what we always did, but the tone really changed. We weren't as salesy per se, when we usually would be, because we wanted to be respectful of the situation that we knew everyone was in. So while continuing to show that we were leaders in the industry for what we do, we really started relaying our team's personality and values in the digital world. It's not just selling your product, it's selling the people who will be working with the clients on a day-to-day basis. So things like our Meet Me Mondays that really introduced our staff, and our Feel Good Fridays were a way to keep things light, but also keep top of mind weekly in front of these people. I think we're gonna keep doing them, but we've really changed the tone again. It's gotten more serious again over the last year, I guess, and we've really pivoted. I'm sorry to use that word that everybody's so tired of hearing, but we're definitely changing to more focused content and getting our projects back out there again.
Let me go over to you, Sarah, with the same basic question, and then I've got to tag along. And questions are coming in on both sides right now. So, and I'm going to get to you with the next one, Katrina.
Well, I think a lot of what Chloe mentioned, particularly the things that JRA did to not come across as salesy, but still stay top of mind, is very similar to the approach that Premier took. We really jumped in and joined every podcast, every webinar, every Zoom call, Ring Central, you name it. We wanted to still be in front of the client, but on any of those calls, we mostly were the listener to see what needs our clients had. We were respectful that they certainly weren't in a position to buy anything because they were trying to figure out what they were dealing with, what was going on. And even where we could provide service for the existing rides that they had, we were cautious and there to be supportive, but we weren't chasing them. It was just making them aware. So definitely avoiding that being salesy kind of situation. We also transitioned where a lot of our posts were just to kind of keep people having fun. So like we would do like the pick the differences, side by side pictures, and can you identify what we had changed, just to be fun, but it was still our product, so people would still have it in front of them.
So, is that something that you, as a company, had to continue to step up as you were learning, or is it something that you sat down on one day and said, "Hey, this is the way it's going to be"? Is it continually evolving, Sarah?
Absolutely, it's still evolving. You know, what strategies we did during pandemic, they were good to get through the gap in the difficult times. And now there are some conversations starting up again. So we are doing a shift, but every day is a little bit different. And so instead of being able to pivot like Chloe did, I'm going to say that we were nimble and continue to do so and adjust to what our clients' needs are.
Katrina, you you're responsible for orchestrating logistically and setting up all of these trade shows. What Gary has sent in a question. He said, Katrina, what are the most important key elements in trade show planning? He says, give us an overview of the time that you need to focus on a show so that when you start and the green light goes, what's the timing?
That's a good question. Trade show planning, like for IAPA, for example, starts before, for example, IAPA Asia. We're booking our next year's trade show before that year's trade show even begins. So the booking our space process starts more than a year out, and then from there, you've got all of your milestones. So getting a booth design. However, for my role, I've been planning so many trade shows at once. So for me, it's just kind of trying to keep a timeline, but with multiple shows at a time. So the full planning for a trade show is usually more than a year, more than a year out.
So you have small and large events. I'm sure
Yeah.
Orlando would be the largest. WWA would be a big one. Shanghai, some of the others. So are all of those, you have those all juxtaposed and moving at the same time? So kind of sitting at a control panel and moving things along as things happen and change?
Yes, that's right. Without my project management software, I'd be lost. I've just got this very complicated spreadsheet with due dates. As I'm sure Chloe and Sarah know, there's so many forms and deadlines you have to meet for every single trade show. So it's a really, really busy job.
A follow-up question that just came in. It says, for the three of you, you all three have large booths at these shows, and you basically travel to all of them. Have you had to cut back on sizing or people for the trade shows at this point in time? And how will that change going forward? Chloe?
I guess right now it's easy to answer for IAPA Europe because I leave in a couple of days, and
Yep.
that's yes, we've absolutely cut back on both staff and size. JRA in the last several years have been building our booth, and for the first time in a long time, we went down to shell scheme. Aesthetically, we're still using, our great graphics. I'm lucky that we are a design firm, so we have things to work with that will still make it look nice. I think it's going to be difficult to walk up to a shell scheme booth, but everybody understands this year. The numbers are definitely smaller than what we would have taken in previous years. We did do the same thing for Asia this year. When speaking of IAPA, Orlando, we've stayed the same size, but we are obviously changing our booth based on furniture and layout. And we're trying to plan day by day, which isn't easy for any of us, but the numbers for that will significantly be different than what they've been in years past.
How about you, Sarah?
Very, very similar. It's such a difficult landscape to negotiate right now because we do want to be back in front of our clients and see all of our, what we affectionately call our IAPA family. But we still have to weigh out that the whole point of a trade show is to produce more business.
Yeah.
And when the numbers are down and the buyers are not there, not just humans inside making a show busy, but actual people that want to conduct business, if they're not there, then it's really difficult and we have to weigh out the value of that investment. So whether it's a booth size, whether it's a custom booth versus a shell scheme, we're also making all of those tough decisions. And so in this case, our booth size in Barcelona went to 0. And we'll miss you, Chloe. Good luck there. But we're actively planning the IAPA show and we're engaging with our clients in other ways.
Here's a question that just came in, which I think is really a good one, and it's very broad. And I'm gonna ask all three of you. It says, "How do you compete in today's market for new eyes, people to follow you? How are you getting out to them?" Katrina, you want to take that?
Sure. I think updating our marketing campaigns. We've got a new, we also shifted our marketing campaign at the start of the pandemic from being less salesy to unity. And then in the trade show booth this year, we're actually, it's WhiteWater's 40th year in business. So we're focusing on celebrating our industry. And yeah, we're really excited to debut our new campaign next week in Barcelona.
Are you reaching out with the social media more than you ever have in the past?
We've always been pretty diverse in reaching out with social media, digital marketing. So yes, we've been ramping that up, and we're, I think more regional marketing has also helped. We're seeing a lot more a transition to more regional attendance at shows instead of everyone attending to the large international trade shows, just because with the pandemics, it's so hard to predict who can travel,
Yeah.
as well as even what team we can send to every event. It's such a changing environment that you have to be versatile.
How about you? How about you, Sarah? What's Premier doing to continue to broaden that beam?
Well, first, I want to say, Katrina and everyone at WhiteWater, congratulations on 40 years. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Premier had the fortunate circumstance to celebrate our 25th during 2020. So I wish you guys much, much more in-person celebrations than what we were able to do. But as far as keeping in front of our clients, getting new eyes, we try and keep up with the trends and see, once we've identified who our target buyers are for what region, because we are a global company. And by doing so, once we've identified the buyers, we pay close attention to where they are. Where are they active? Are they active on social media? Is it more LinkedIn? Is it better to do direct marketing outreach with emails or even now just Zoom calls and such?
Let me ask you there. Somebody just said, what's the average number of Zoom calls they all do a week? Finish your thought and then come back to that, Sarah. We did
Well,
5 yesterday.
yeah, I'm just going to say to wrap my first thought up is we've really paid attention that, in the beginning of like social media days, a lot was text and it was worrying about meeting that 140 characters. Then you saw a little bit more introduction of pictures on social, then GIFs and video. And now video is a lot more coverage than just writing a post. And so that's one of the ways we try and keep relevant, is staying up with trends like that.
Yeah.
As far as number of Zoom calls, and I can't count that high, and I'm really good at math.
How about you, Chloe?
I'm
Take
not good at math, and I can definitely not count that high. Certainly not for a week. My daily intake is higher than I can count, I believe.
Yeah.
If you're still wanting to go on the strategies and tactics kind of thing, I'm gonna sing
please.
praises to a couple of my colleagues. Our director of communications, Clara Rice, is a rock star when it comes to our social media posts. No matter what platform we're speaking about, she always makes sure to showcase our work. Throughout the pandemic and the future, she's got the whole team on board when it comes to the analytics of it all. Whether it's what days to post things, marketing ads, SEO, all things that are far over my head. But once we go through that, I'm going to throw another one who is beloved, Linda Round, is really on top of us with the sales journey. Once we do get in front of these people's eyes, she makes sure that we're following up. She's on top of who's contacting who, what the next steps are for everything, who needs a proposal. And she's really gotten us as a team on board with the sales journey and how to take advantage of everything that, social media and the rest of our marketing is doing.
How often do you have to call audibles, all of you? And I'll come to you in just a minute, Katrina. But I mean, when you're seeing these things changing like we are, how is there a weekly meeting that says, let's pull that down and put this up now?
Absolutely. Weekly, daily, text, phone, email, you name it. We've never been a 9 to 5 industry, and that's just gotten worse.
Yeah.
The hours just kind of roll into days, and everybody's really picking up the slack for whoever isn't, and the next day it'll be the other way around. So um, if somebody's missed something, another team member is really good at picking up and saying, this is the project you were talking about, here's the contact, here's some of the information that we've already sent. So yeah, audible is a great term for how marketing strategizing has gone for the last 18 months.
Katrina, your WhiteWater would certainly be the largest company represented here in terms of employees. How do you get that information in, and how do you send it back out, and how are the changes made?
Yeah, we have twice a week we have team meetings, so everyone kind of goes through what they're working on, and I think it's a really great way for us to communicate and connect and understand what everyone's working on, what's going on in the world, and how we can all support each other. And yeah, just with the industry changing all the time with the pandemic and different events going on, yeah, I think internally having a strong team and working together and yeah, being in communication really helps.
Does that come in from all over the globe to you? Because I know you have offices.
Yes, we have offices in Dubai, we have one in Munich and Shanghai, plus we have sales team all over the world. So yeah, we're good at, as Chloe was saying, having meetings at all hours of the day. So like I'll have 10 p.m. meetings with our office in Dubai. We're pretty accommodating so that we can all stay in touch and be aware of what's happening in all the regions.
Sarah, let me come to you on this question. This is from our friend Chris Perry. He said, are you finding that pricing of, you'll have to scroll up, thank you, there it is. Are you finding that the pricing of the services and product in the industry are reduced in order to attract business at this point in time? What modifications are having to be made? And that applies to all of you, so you'll all answer this if you would. We'll start with you, Sarah.
I'm pretty sure trade show pricing hasn't gone down for us. No, I know, but in all seriousness, I believe that the expectation was that pricing would go down because everyone wants and needs work. But the reality of it is a lot of the materials and the supply chain problems that are happening are creating new challenges. And so, we're not marking things up like crazy. We never have. We've always been very fair. But it's been very difficult because the cost of steel, for example, has just gone through the roof. I believe the cost of lumber is even worse. And so in situations like this, now we're figuring out how to still provide, the best price and get the best product out there. And shipping, it's next to impossible to find a shipping container that's a reasonable time frame or price. So the expectation is there. But at the same time, we understand from several of our clients that, that pent up demand is there. The capacity for operating might be lower, but a lot of the parks are not discounting their tickets either, and they don't need to. So that's great.
No, and as a matter of fact, we're seeing where actually income is up in these reports that are coming out in the third quarter and second quarter. So
they need to just keep going up.
Chloe, what about JRA? It's a little more, Premier's a little more on the hard side with steel and those types of equipments. You're more of the soft side. How about you guys?
Absolutely. It's always been kind of difficult to be able to price, services and pretty pictures when we don't have a comparison to how much it's going to cost to ship our materials across the pond. We're really budgeting and sending fees based on JRA's experience and the product that we're creating. So the pandemic has not helped in that terms of the situation for us because people are wanting a deal per se, and we're costing the same as we always have. We're not overpriced. We're not, if we've worked with the client for a while, we'll do our best to continue with prices. But yeah, it's very hard when we don't have something to fall back on, such as how much a shipping container costs right now. So we can't really add an overlaying fee because we are sending a link to some beautiful drawings and master plans.
Yeah, we've even seen where not only the cost of the container, et cetera, but getting in the rotation for the shipping to where it's going. I mean, we're seeing lengths and times that we've never seen before. What about you guys, Katrina? Do you get involved with that?
Our situation is very similar to what Sarah was saying with the shipping prices just are a much higher. Supply chain is affected. We've had issues like, if anything, shipping outside of China. We had a situation last month with trying to actually ship some trade show materials back to the Netherlands to get ready for our trade show, and one person in the port in Shanghai tested positive for COVID, so they had to shut the entire port down and everything was delayed. Luckily, we had time on our side and it ended up working out, but there's always those things that you need to take into account, especially if you have deadlines to meet. You have to accommodate those potential issues. So for the client side, yes, shipping has been a bit problematic with supply chain and everything, but for trade shows, it particularly is more stressful because the trade show has a specific date, like Barcelona next week starts on Tuesday.
Yep.
That trade show is going to happen whether we're ready or not. So deadlines for trade shows become very stressful, especially in a pandemic.
Anything to add to that, ladies? Sarah?
Well, we definitely have deadlines with our clients as well. So that can be very stressful because if our clients have marketed the product opening on it, if they've scheduled their grand opening events and things like that, we're on the hook as well from that standpoint. But boy, when you have your stuff stuck in customs or, you're waiting on your literature for your booth, and now you're on the ground in a foreign country, not really familiar with where you can reprint a bunch of literature until your stuff clears customs, that can be pretty stressful as well.
Same, Chloe?
Absolutely. My luggage is extremely heavy already for the next 2 days because I refuse to.
And that's just your shoes.
That's true. I have to throw some stuff in the guys' bags. But yeah, I refuse to ship anything for this show, specifically because we're not taking as much as we typically would, but because of the nightmare that everything has created, I'm got an extra bag and I'm using the muscles that I've gotten over COVID.
I think I think you'd probably agree with me. We see it here at ITPS. Our lead times have lengthened. We have to add to the lead time, no matter what the aspect of the planning process is, whether it's touching base with the client after the first call or carrying through to signing a contract. And I tell the team here all the time, can't always just do it on the computer. We lose a day, we lose something, pick up the phone and call. We've been doing that a lot, and we've seen that has helped really move the process along here as we continue to try to figure out things. Katrina, come back to you just for a minute. This is from Gerald. He said, Katrina, what are your thoughts on the success of virtual shows and how many overlay of digital on all aspects of trade shows? Has this been accepted and debated? So in other words, how are you seeing the virtual? Is it working where you have to do it? Would it be your choice of way to communicate?
Short answer, no.
Okay.
Yeah. So I appreciate, especially in the height of the pandemic, like with IAPA last summer, trying to keep the business or keep our industry connected and together by hosting a virtual event. I think webinars have been a great way to continue education and to stay connected. However, we are at WhiteWater, and I think Chloe and Sarah would agree, we're not big fans of virtual events. It's just not a direct comparison. It's not a replacement. Live trade shows, you've got someone for a day or three fully immersed, walking around the trade show, taking in the experience, meeting people, networking. You've got at least a full day of someone's time. Whereas virtual events, you maybe have an hour of someone's time. They might be distracted, they're at home, they're at the office, they've got their email open. It's just not the same at all. So I'm very excited to get back into trade shows. Like, we've already, WhiteWater's exhibited 5 times already since the world, or the Western world, shut down in March of 2020. So I'm personally very excited to see the return of live events.
This next question I'm going to put to all three of you. It comes in from Tommy. He said, you represent 3 of the most important companies in our industry. And this is something you just touched on, Katrina. It says, we have been inundated and flooded with webinars. What's your take on webinars? Sarah, start with you. There's no wrong answer here. I think we all have one.
So I think it depends on the platform, 100%, because there have been webinars and presentations where you can see who else is participating, maybe not physically see on video like this, but at least see and have a chat box available where, while the presentation is occurring, you can still connect with people. I've found those to be very engaging, but it might also depend on the purpose of the webinar. Like, why am I attending? If I'm attending purely for the information that the presenter is giving, and it's just an educational thing, maybe I don't mind that I don't know who else is there. Maybe I think it's an exclusive presentation for only me. But if I'm there as I would be, say, at a trade show or in-person event, I'm collaborating, I'm networking, I'm connecting with other people, which is going to have a business benefit for me as well, which is hopefully when I meet them and find out that they're interested in what our products are, what services we can provide, it's adding value to that webinar, even if the content itself was very interesting. I also believe that there's a vast difference in the engagement from a live webinar or podcast like today compared to the ones that are pre-recorded. Now, I understand if it's pre-recorded, you're not going to have connectivity issues, you won't have interruptions, things like that, but it feels different from an attendance standpoint too.
What do you think, Chloe?
There's a significant drop in numbers recently in these, and it's because the screen fatigue is real. The content has been very good for shows and conferences alike. I've tried to be as positive through the response. I'm glad that the virtual trade show question was asked to Katrina and not me, because she was far more positive than I probably would have been. But, a lot of the time the webinars are also funded by sponsors or exhibitors.
Yeah.
And, the ROI is non-existent. Getting great content is good, but we need to see an ROI, and, virtually we're not. So I'm with Katrina and Sarah when I say in person is a must. We know that there's going to be a digital overlay on everything. I think my thoughts on that are probably pretty similar to my thoughts on virtual trade shows, but it's what's expected now. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing how associations are going to move forward with those, and how, they're not just going to be beneficial to attendees, but to people like the 3 of us.
Katrina,
it-
with you doing I'm sorry, let me just ask this and then hold that thought, Sarah. With you doing as many as you're doing for WhiteWater, and I'm sure you're networking with a lot of other organizations, do you think there's going to be a hybrid of this? Do you think it will skew one way or the other, or pull back to all face-to-face type of meetings?
Yes, actually, today is our second day exhibiting at a hybrid event. NRPA in Nashville is started yesterday, and then so yesterday and today are the in-person trade show days, and then tomorrow is the virtual side of the event. So I think that is better than full virtual events because it's kind of accommodating those who would like to and are comfortable traveling to the trade show and meeting in person, as well as accommodating those who are more comfortable networking and meeting with vendors from the comfort of their home or office. So yeah, I think it
if you
is
had to
gonna,
skew it, where do you think, from where we came from to where we are now, where do you think it'll fall on the scale, just based on what you're seeing from your WhiteWater experience?
yeah, I don't think virtual is going to be completely gone anytime soon. I think it will be around for a bit. However, I think it's a positive thing seeing in-person events happening, which are more prevalent than the virtual trade shows. So I'm seeing a trend of more in-person events with a little bit of virtual trade shows on the side, but mostly in
Okay.
person.
Yeah. Sarah, you had a comment? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's fine. It actually goes right along with what this topic is. And that is with the hybrid shows. There's definitely a concern that if it's very easy for a buyer or attendee to not go to the show, but there's a handful of people that go to the show. My concern is, how do you ensure that the exhibitors who are funding all of it, they're paying for booth space, they're paying to build their booth, they're paying to take staff there because they have to be there, but their buyer doesn't have to be there, but there might be
Yeah.
2 or 3 people that show up. I'm concerned about how that plays out in the long term, because it's not financially sustainable for an exhibitor to keep funding these big events that their buyers don't even have to show up to.
Well, I think we've gone into a qualitative mode versus a quantitative mode. And we can go to IAPA and we can say, oh gee whiz, we've got 40,000 people here. Isn't that great? How many of those are buyers? How many of those are decision makers? How many of those come to your booth and have the ink pen to write the check to any of the three of you? I think that's something we have to look at. Is there any conversation with, say, IAPA on that mode? Do they give a report on qualitative aspect at this point in time? Maybe they don't have it. I don't know. Chloe?
Uh,
You- Sarah?
there's been
Yeah.
a long conversation about how the numbers for the trade shows are based on overall attendees, and like you mentioned, qualitative over quantitative. I don't care if 100 people are coming from Disney. I put them all into a bucket of about 5, because
That's
five people are the ones that I probably want to speak to. I'm happy that 100 of their employees get to come and
sure.
enjoy the trade show and learn and get to see all of the products. That's how the industry grows. But yeah, trying to get that number isn't always easy. And I think there's a fine line of how they're going to move, not just IAPA. That was a specific question, but for all trade shows
All trade
that we've
shows,
been
right.
involved in, it's hard to get that number because, they want to use a number that's overlying and shows that the attendance was great. But as an exhibitor, it really, at the end of the day, if we have one really great contract, that's awesome. We would rather have 10, but that one contract probably paid for that specific booth. But yeah, I think it's always been an issue, but moving forward, if there is the virtual overlay, it's going to be even more of a conversation that exhibitors continue to push for, knowing who's going to show up and why attendees are getting another overlay of opportunity that we are having to pay for.
Well, as suppliers, manufacturers, consultants to the industry, we're making those adjustments. A person you're familiar with, Sarah, Jim Shea, you've heard of him, I think. He sent in a note, and really, you pretty much have answered this, but I'm going to read it and then come back to it. He said, with all the new technologies and analytics that you're describing, how are you determining the marketing investment in those areas versus the investment of in-person shows? Is the cost additive a part of the overall budgeting process? Now, all three of you have touched on that to some degree, but I would add to it and say, just as we've had to make adjustments about shows and marketing investments, people we're sending, hotel rooms we're buying, do the associations have to come back and say, hey, we're going to refine our qualitative aspects to the participants, because we know that a huge part of our association is paid for by the exhibitors. It comes from the booth, the show, and the fees. So, Katrina, I'm sorry. Let me come back to you just for a moment. One of the questions that came in, Katrina, was we've said 35 shows, give or take. You can't go to everything. Have you cut back some shows, or have you added some shows? And the
yes,
other part of the question is, what was your reasoning on either?
So I don't personally go to all of the shows because I would never have time to plan them. However, this year coming up, we are exhibiting at fewer shows, so overall less trade show and events, but really we're not cutting back too much. We are optimistic going forward about exhibiting. We don't expect it to be a normal year by any means. Mm-hmm. However, we still are exhibiting at most of the major shows that we normally exhibit at.
And do you think that will just kind of hold pace for a while, and then you'll make adjustments depending on how fast they come?
Yeah, we're always making adjustments, and we're always, the one thing that's making my job a little bit more difficult is delaying all of our decisions. So the time that I can plan a lot of elements that go into the trade show are in a much shorter timeline, because we're still waiting to hear who can go to this show, how many people are we sending, do we have time to reduce our booth space if we don't think the numbers are going to be as good as we thought they were going to be. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting year going forward, just because of how much uncertainty there is. However, we are optimistic.
Well, there comes a point when you can't pull the plug.
Yes.
Yes. You're locked and loaded, and and that comes out of your pocketbook. We understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah, I've heard you speak about the guerrilla marketing tactics that you use in a good way. Can you talk a little bit about those and maybe how it's had to adapt during this time, or has it?
Yes, but before we do that, I would just like to add with the topic of the technologies and how that's adjusting. I just, the trade shows themselves probably do have a need to really evaluate the path forward. And I would just like to liken it toward class reunions. High school reunions used to be like a really big thing, but then with the advent of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, it's like, oh, well, I actually know what that person even ate yesterday. Why do I need to travel back to my hometown to see them? And the people that I care about, I'm still in touch with, even if I don't talk to them on a regular basis. So that thought popped into my head, so I wanted to put that out there. As far as guerrilla marketing goes, it will be interesting moving forward, how the in-person events work. I would say some of our fun marketing to create a buzz at some of the shows and events are having our team, maybe we show up in a costume that's maybe themed with something that goes along, with whatever the location is. That might have to change, but we're just kind of adjusting and watching day by day as well.
Well, somebody just sent in a question and said, please tell us that you're not going to eliminate the Premier Ripley suites in the future. Sacrifice everything else, but keep the suites.
I will tell you that the planning is underway with that. Obviously, nothing is set in stone, but we do plan to have it unless with the greater powers that be that are beyond our control say we can't. But there will definitely be some changes, and we're evaluating a lot of things because we want, number one, our guests to be safe. We want them to have a great time. We don't want to lose what that experience has been. And we're evaluating things, including making sure that everyone is vaccinated before coming in.
Actually, show the card.
We're evaluating a lot of different
show
ways
the
of approaching that. So yeah, show me your scar.
Here's my Band-Aid. I saved it from 4 months ago.
We're known for giving shots. Maybe we'll give those kind of shots.
Yeah. Usually it's in the form of tequila.
Pick your poison.
Chloe, here's one that came in for you. It said, Chloe, how do you feel about the different forms of media advertising? You've talked a little bit about social media, but what about the trade magazines, charitable events, things like that? Does that help JRA?
It certainly does. We definitely base it on what's going on in-house, openings, what trade shows we're at, or planning on going to, charities. Our industry's charity of choice is Give Kids the World. And as you mentioned, I'm on the IAPA committee for that. It's, I hold it very near and dear to my heart, as do you. And while at the end of the day, we're giving back to them, on a selfish side, it's very easy to market. Who doesn't want to support such a great cause?
That's right.
My friend up
like
here,
last weekend.
Right. Yes. Sarah went to the black tie event last weekend. Our colleague up here in Northern Kentucky, Walt Bowser, and I did a golf outing this spring, and
amazing.
It ended up going so much better than we could have ever dreamed. And it's going to be an annual event. Definitely keep your eyes out for that. But, as a marketing tactic, it works, but it also makes you feel good at the end of the day.
Well, I'd just like to add on to that because our team, our engineers, every year they form a team for Coasting for Kids, which is also benefiting Give Kids the World. And, over the course of the last 4, they've raised over $10,000. And for them, it's just a fun day. But just like former guest Pam Landworth, her book On Purpose, it truly does give a sense of meaning and a sense of purpose for all of us to participate and support charities like that. And it is so fun and easy to market.
Well, you do the motorcycle, the golf. There are a lot of things that happen. Katrina, what about WhiteWater? How does that figure into the marketing and advertising, planning, charitable event side of it?
We participate in Give Kids the World, the 5K race every year at IAPA. So we get a team together, and we love to support that organization. And we're actually at WhiteWater, we're now committing to being more sustainable as a company going forward with our manufacturing and trade shows and everything. So I think supporting the Give the Kids the World especially is a really important in our industry.
Well, here's a question that came in earlier, and it kind of ties into your last comment, so I ask it now. It says, how do all three of you how do your companies plan into the growing green effort? You kind of just touched on that a little bit. Maybe Chloe, from a design standpoint and a planning standpoint.
Yeah, that's more and more important to our clients all the time. So our design directors and production team really have to put that in at the beginning of every process for us. Again, you mentioned we're on the softer side of that, but in order for the hard side to be developed, we have to go first. And that planning needs to start at the beginning. So it's been at the forefront for years, but it's definitely becoming more and more prevalent.
What about you, Sarah?
Very similar. In fact, we also have our designers once Chloe's design is done and our team takes over, we'll look at the way that the equipment can function and find better ways to, reduce the consumption of energy, for example, or use materials that are going to be, like recycled aluminum maybe could be used in a certain place. But we take all of that into consideration and find ways to accommodate and really meet our clients' requests for things like that. It's definitely in the forefront of consideration.
Does it come out early in the discussions with the clients, or does it come out later? Chloe?
Early. It's
Yeah.
typically part of the immediate conversation
Yeah.
with existing clients on how they can refurbish exhibits or attractions to make them more sustainable and green. But for new clients, it's definitely part of the conversation when we first begin.
It's just part of the fabric now, isn't it? That's what we
Absolutely.
see too.
Yep.
Same thing for you guys?
Are you
Katrina,
asking me,
same thing?
Dennis?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah, Sarah, I'll go to you.
No, I mean, it's usually at the forefront as well. And finding regenerative power sources and things like that really, it's kind of a fun challenge for our engineers too, to come up with new ways to be more green.
Same, Katrina?
Yeah, we coming up with more strategic shipping initiatives to reduce our carbon footprint is very important and something that we're really thinking about here. And then in the trade show world, it's what trade show booth materials can we reuse? What swag are we buying that isn't plastic and polluting the environment? Those sort of things are begin early in the stages of planning. So yeah, we're definitely trying to be more sustainable going forward, and it's something you have to do. Like, we all want an environment for our children growing up. We want a healthy planet. So
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about that myself.
So to reduce our carbon footprint, I like to plan what I can put in Chloe's suitcase instead of shipping.
I heard from Jim it was you don't cook much anymore.
Anymore. I never did.
Yeah, never did. Actually, got another question from Jim to you, Katrina. He said, following up on Katrina's input on the quantity yesterday, the Indian IAAPI canceled their 2022 show. You may be aware of that. So what's the marketing pivot there? He said, I hate to use the word but that needs to occur when such a cancellation occurs, and it remains prevalent in the market. So what do you do on something like that from your standpoint, Katrina?
So yeah, we're gonna have.
Were you aware of that?
I actually wasn't. So it's very interesting news. Although I was suspecting that it might be. We're gonna have to pivot to focusing on our digital media, our digital marketing, our social media. We do have a salesperson in India, so we'll be in contact with him to figure out what's the best way to continue reaching out and building a relationship with our clients in that region.
Yeah, and this is one of those, what we talked about 25 minutes ago, immediate audibles that have to be called. It affects everybody. I mean, really, we're working on a project over in India. Not sure that we would have been at the show, but it'll affect probably the client and what their decision process is now. So, any comment on that, Chloe?
I look forward to being able to get back to that region of the world, but it kind of reminds me of what we had to do for IAPA Asia back in just August, I guess.
Yeah.
We had, our booth was built and ready for install, and about 5 days prior it had to get canceled at no fault of IAPA's. It's just the way the world is right now, but that definitely has made our decisions for Europe change. You know, we still sent out our newsletter, and instead of thanks for visiting us at the show, it was sorry we didn't see you at the show, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully in Europe or Orlando. So you just have to make do with what you're given and hope that you didn't end up eating too much of the cost at the end of the day. And if you did, move to shell scheme.
There you go. Sarah, anything to add to that?
The only thing I would add is that it's definitely a new challenge as well to keep up with contact information if you have to revert back to the email blast, for example, because if you had your whole list, and we all know that many of our clients had to cut back and put people on furlough and this and that.
Yeah.
You might not be reaching them anymore from the traditional, oh, just put together that email, click send. You really have to put a lot more into it. And, you know, it's important that you do find that, but man, the world has changed.
It has changed. Well, guess what? It's the fastest hour of our week, and we are actually past time. There's one more picture that I wanted to put up here, if I can find it. Let's see. This was a marketing tool used by JRA. Chloe, do you always dress up like that to go to the Bengals games? Because they never win. Or do you want to explain what that might be?
I don't, but again, it was easy marketing for us to use.
Yeah. Front page of the Cincinnati Enquirer, Time Magazine picked it up, the New York.
It was a fun game.
Yeah. Now, was that a carryover from the wedding the night before? You just kept on going?
It was. You know, the dress might or might not have come off, but it came back on, and I'm one of the only people who got to use it twice, you know? So
and that's in a good sense.
There we go.
So for those our viewers and listeners out there, we have a picture of Chloe in her wedding dress, her husband in his tux at the Bengals game, and as I recall, that was put on the screen up on the Bengals stadium. So congratulations. Well, ladies, thank you very much for being my guests today. Really, each of you have been amazing. The information you brought, the enthusiasm and the experience that you bring, and what you contribute to IAPA and to the other organizations is really incredible. As I say a lot these days, it's a young people's business, and you are the young people, and you're the people who carry the flags for our industry today, and that's why I wanted to have you on and hear your comments and discuss these topics. I can tell you this, sitting here in the studio, we could go for another hour and a half with all the questions that have come in. So for those of you who didn't get your questions answered, I apologize, but we'll send those to the ladies, and we'll ask you, Pam will send those out and ask you to just do a brief summary of the question that targets the issue, and then we'll run that in the ITPS news and as soon as we get your information. So thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Katrina, for being here. Thanks to all your great organizations. Know them all and have known them since they all started. So it's fun to be a part of that. So I always like to close, and you ladies will understand this. I said, if we don't have fun, how can we sell fun, right? That's the business we're in. Simple. We have to have fun to sell fun. And we work in a great industry. We don't pollute the skies. We don't put contaminants in the streams and the waters. What we really do at the end of the day is we put smiles on people's face, and we make memories that last a lifetime. And that's can't think of a better business and industry to be in. So since we're running along, I'm not going to get into any more of the information. You can check the ITPS news for up and coming podcasts and guests. We have a list over here, but I'm getting the this sign, so I guess we have to go. So thanks, ladies. Good to see y'all. Hope to see you in person. Won't be in Barcelona either, but tell everybody hello down there, guys. Okay, Chloe, tell them hi, and we'll see you in Orlando.
Absolutely. Take care.
Okay,
Guys.
thanks so
See you
much.
in Orlando.
Right.
See
Thank
ya.
you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.